This is Barbara Ellistad and John Taylor with the Mesquite Citizen Journal, and in our week-long series of interviewing all of the candidates for the Mesquite City Council election race in 2013, we're here today with Chuck Kruder. So Chuck, what we'd like to do is start out by asking you to tell us, how long you've been in Mesquite, some of the organizations you're involved with, some of the reasons why you want to run for City Council.
Okay. Well, I actually had to look back on the closing records on our house to get the exact date because I wanted to fill it out for the media report. And it turns out that on April 14th, we will have closed on our house and have been residents for 3 years.
Okay.
Of course, we were back and forth when the house was being built, and we were living in Nevada since January of that year. We originally came from Southern California, where I lived with my wife for 24 years in Mission Viejo, California. We made the decision to come to Mesquite based on time in life and time in occupation. Time in life was we don't move around a lot.
Okay.
We lived in Mission Viejo 12 years in one house. We moved 1.5 miles down the road to another house where we lived another 12 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When my wife said, at that time I was running my own business, do we really have to stay here? And we looked at our situation. We had a huge 5-bedroom house on a big lot, and then big lots in Southern California don't exist.
Yeah.
And we were paying enormous taxes, and what it came down to is after our son moved out, and while you think only having one child is, well, what does that mean? Well, it means he has about 20 friends, which were over at all times. So we did have this big house, which we did use, but after he moved out, as an adult, we were left with this big house and 2 chihuahuas and my wife. And it was kind of a situation where we really need to reevaluate our situation. We started looking. We looked in New Mexico, we looked in Arizona, we looked in different parts of Nevada. I had a trade show in Vegas, and we heard good things about Mesquite. And
good.
Decided the trade show was ending noon on a Friday, so let's take the weekend, let's go up there, just as tourists looky bees.
Yeah.
Let's just see what there is about Mesquite that people say nice things, and that's kind of how we went to New Mexico, we went to Santa Fe, we went to Albuquerque, we went to Rio Vista. We were experimenting with where this place is going to be, this next spot.
Right.
And for all the right reasons, Nevada with the tax situations being what they are. My wife always had a huge desire to live in a small town. My job always put me in larger communities. But it really came down to I needed to be near a major airport. Well, at that time St. George wasn't much of an airport, but McCarran certainly is.
Right.
So we came to really like Mesquite, and it was very shortly thereafter that we made the decision that Mesquite has possibilities of being that next spot. The only thing I told my wife is, when we make the move, this is the place we're going to retire to.
Yeah, okay.
And that kind of goes on to your next question of why I'm choosing to run for City Council.
Okay.
I am not here for the short term. I am not here just to bide my time until the next opportunity presents itself. We bought and had a house built here in Mesquite with the intention that I would work the rest of my working life here and then choose to retire here.
Okay. Okay. We'll get started with the questions then. Obviously, the City Council does not have control over Overton Power District. However, what are your thoughts about the mayor's quest to find a new power supplier, and how would you do that if you were elected to City Council?
Well, first off, I applaud Mark Weir on his quest to find an alternate power source. The recent citizens group that came together, I think the Rural Democratic Caucus hosted, but it doesn't really matter the host. I think the people that were attending, it didn't matter your political affiliation or your level of interest. I think it was an eye-opening affair. And to me, that's how I perceived it, and that's what I took away from it. We certainly have an issue with the board. I think Susan Holichuk brought up a very good point in the past, even though the elections have been open, not a lot of people took the, in fact, at some time, no one took the ambition to actually run. It's hard to point fingers at OPD and say, you're at fault if they do have an election. Nevertheless, when doing some of the research, you find out that there are certain groups, and in this case, it was a it was a religious affiliation that is being cited as being tightly knit and keeping out other individuals. Now, I can't say for sure this is true. I mean, I am doing the research, and that's part of what I want to achieve as part of the City Council, is doing the due diligence. Some of my concern, and one of the reasons I'm running, is I think a lot of times decisions are made before the City Council meetings are ever held. This kind of government which happens behind closed doors is something I personally disagree with.
Okay.
I believe government should be transparent. I'm thinking ahead, speaking as a representative of the people, you listen to the people. It's not your opinion that really matters. Your opinion might guide you, but I believe in integrity. And integrity at some point means that my personal opinion, be that as it may not be the best for Mesquite when all the facts are considered. Okay. And that's all I promise to the people of this community, that I will be fair, I will listen to both sides of the situation. In this case of the OPD, I think we definitely need to take a much harder look at who's on the board, how they got there, and what their objectives are. I think that Low-Tech was being kind of not even given a fair shot when it appeared to me, and again, this is on, without doing the due diligence I promised, but on first pass, I believe that he was probably the most qualified person.
Right.
Yet he was never given an opportunity. He was pretty much told, you're out of it, before it ever began.
Okay.
Okay, changing subjects a little bit. What are your thoughts about the Gold Butte area as a national conservation area, with or without wilderness? And how do you think it would serve as an economic development engine?
Okay, personally, I have not had the full Gold Butte experience. My wife has. She's part of the Friends of Gold Butte. I know Nancy had friends, and I believe that it is a wonderful resource, not only for the community as far as the environment that it presents, but I think economically, it's something we are not exploiting. And I hate to use the word exploit when you're talking about, a beautiful place like Gold Butte, but what we're doing is saying that, we are a golf community, we have gaming. Well, the ATV people, they're the first to stand up and talk about, the wonderful trails that are out here, but there's wonderful hiking trails. There's beautiful places for people to make the journey to Mesquite to experience what we have to offer as far as this beautiful environment goes. And you don't have to own an ATV to do that. And I think that if we promoted this more, this is something that can actually become another reason to become a tourist destination. Yes, it may be just one factor, but there are groups of people who would, and my wife is used to lead hikes in South Laguna, and she's a naturalist, and I use that word sparingly because sometimes people think you're a naturalist and they think of a whole different thing. Yeah. But basically she led hikes into the wilderness. Okay. She's works with Friends of Gold Butte. She goes out there. She's actually looking at different trails now, and while the Gold Butte Days is a wonderful event that started last year in Mesquite, the whole idea of that one event should not be what we consider the way to use Gold Butte as an economic resource.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You have to excuse my cold. The Virgin River Habitat Conservation and Recovery Plan has been under consideration by the City Council for close to a year. Which way do you think the issue should be settled, and do you see it more as an economic development issue or a conservation issue?
You know, to truly answer that question, I would have to do much more due diligence. I have a scattering of information, and one thing, backtrack very shortly.
Okay.
I ran my own company for 3 years. I was president of a company for close to 20 years. In fact, 19 years and 11 months.
Okay.
And in that, I had over 400 reports to me. It was nationwide and throughout Canada. I understand what it is to make a decision, and I understand what it is to make a decision without the proper information.
Okay.
To make a decision without the proper information, either you're pontificating and you're going to have to backtrack, or you're not really doing your due diligence. I promise to do my due diligence. I promise to look at all the facts before making a decision, and I do not have all the facts to make that comment at this time.
Okay. All right.
What are your thoughts on the smoke-free Mesquite effort?
You know, the effort and the philosophy behind it, I think, are both commendable. Personally, I'm a non-smoker. That being said, how does it affect the community? In two ways, it affects the community in that locals, and I've heard this over and over again, are reluctant to go to some of our casinos, the restaurants, events, because they don't want to be encountering the smoke. When Smoke Free came out and actually did a poll, and I don't know how accurate it is, but the numbers are so dramatic, 85% of the people said they want a smoke-free Mesquite. So let's say they're off by a good percentage.
Okay.
They're off by 10%. That's still 75% of the people polled. Now, whether the poll was accurate, I do not know. I do believe that those kind of numbers can't be argued with.
Okay.
I'm hearing Greg Lee speak from Eureka. He says it will dramatically affect his business. I'm not sure if it will or will not, but you know, the reality is perception is reality.
Okay.
And in his mind, he thinks that it will. And I think there's quite a few other businesses in the town that believe the same. The smoke-free initiatives that went through in New York and through in California, I'm from California, and it's very strong out there. It also affects Chicago and other major cities. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, you know, business really hasn't hurt. Now, granted, it's not a gaming community, mm-hmm. but neither is Mesquite entirely a gaming community. Mm. And again, when we talked about Gold Butte, you know, we're talking about, and we talk about the Long Drive Championship, and you know, athletes coming to town, the soccer, the rugby. These are people who would probably put us high on their list if we were smoke-free.
Okay.
So it's something that really has to come down to. This is one of those decisions that would be not made by my personal opinion, but by the opinion of what's best for Mesquite, based on the people and the business clients. I am pro-business. I work for the Chamber of Commerce. I deal with the local businesses every day. And believe me, unfortunately, I hear more complaints than I do praises.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I'm running is I really want to have an effect in changing some of that.
Okay.